Hello, here with another No Ums video. This is No Ums number 22 for June the 11th, 2022. So this week in No Ums, my vocal working on my vocal presentation, I had a bit of wobble on my practice sessions. They were a little bit less focused. Part of it was there was definitely a good couple of days in there where there was a bit of a time crunch, so I just sort of kind of crammed in a bunch of stuff. The cramming probably not so great for like, okay, want to relax, want to kind of let everything loosen up, be fluid, do all my different various exercises. Didn't get as many of those exercises in. You know, I think that happens. You have weeks that you're going to be less into that. I mean, a part of it also just might be repetition. Starts getting a little on the stale side, or you feel like, it's like, what is this doing? Some of the tongue twisters, I feel like I was more cotton mouthed, or more not as agile as I have been in weeks past. So it's like, that's a little discouraging. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to be getting better and better. I guess there's only a certain level of betterness that happens. Well, or, it's just you power through some of this stuff. Some of the stuff you power through, some of the stuff I think is trying to come up with a couple of different paths of, all right, you have maybe 5 minutes. What's a good 5 minute exercises to get yourself up to speed until for you to go on to your work, versus like, okay, I've got 15 whole minutes and I'll do the whole wide array of exercises. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind, and yeah, probably work up a 5 minute quick through line on my exercises to sometimes, okay, I'm going to do half, but I'm going to do like a little bit from each thing here, and just relax, but just, do that thoroughly. Do a thorough 5 minutes versus doing a hurried, tense 10-minute one. And, also try and embrace and try and get in here early enough to do a 15 where you can kind of just get relaxed and just sort of let everything go loosey goosey like as it was. So yeah, that was my first item. Number two is this week I made the practice of writing out anxiety moments, because my other half of my no ums videos are working. It's kind of personal growth stuff where I'm working on stress, that self-generated stress, my anxiety, and I think dealing with my anxiety is a part of being better on camera. It also has a side effect of maybe being less anxious. And what I came up with from my last the video that I did last week was this whole idea of negative cognitions and trying to replace them with positive ones. And the recommendation of Barbara Hefferman's worksheet on that is to try and make it into a daily practice of each day try and kind of come up with an anxiety that happened during the day. What are the negative cognitions behind that? What are positive cognitions that you could put instead of that? A part of this, there's a couple of methods. I don't know if I'm actually using those methods. That might be something I'll do for my next video, is revisit that worksheet again and say, okay, let's look at those particular methods and try and actually use one. What I've done for this one, that is kind of how I've interpreted it, or how I'm working on it at the moment, is I'm writing down anxious moments on each corner of my daily journal. I just have one anxious moment, kind of describe that anxious moment in brief, then think about, okay, well, what's the negative cognition there that is coming up, making this a stressful moment for me in some way, and what would be a positive cognition? What's a positive thing that you could put there instead that might do the stuff? Actually, I think the one that I did, and I've done seven of them, so I've done a full weeks of them. The seven. I actually found it interesting in the very latest one. I had a thing at work where a resident told me, in a very kind of, in a way that is innocent of social graces of, people lie about stuff, um, people couch things. She, doesn't have any of those layers in her. Said the food is getting repetitious, and I'm bored by it. And I got my initial reaction was I was kind of defensive about it, and I kind of spent an hour kind of like being really kind of stewing over that. And what I actually did, so I didn't catch it at the time. I'm not Zen master level yet on all this anxiety stuff. But I thought, like, well, okay, why did I have such a strong reaction to that? And I thought that, like, as I was in the kitchen making dinner, and it's like, oh, I'm it's because I have a negative cognition about myself that I'm incompetent, that I'm not good enough. Um, and that's a kind of a core belief I have. And someone coming up and saying that they were finding the food, repetitious and boring, was confirming that self belief about myself. And it was like, oh, okay, so what's a positive cognition about that? A positive cognition would be like, I have many skills and strengths, and taking feedback and making it constructive would help me improve, would make things better. And I also know that this particular resident is, can make blanket statements, but that's probably going to have that means something a little bit different to her. And so we had a discussion over dinner of like, oh, okay, well, what would be something that would like to see added to the menu, something that would be thing. And she came up with a suggestion, and I was like, okay, well, that's completely doable. It's not like, beef Wellington or something super elaborate. It's like, no, she's got a fairly simple, like, oh, I'd like to have this for a thing. It's like, okay, well, we can do that. And putting that in. And I mean, there's constraints in my job of, we have budget. I have 6 people that I have to feed, and I have to juggle all their personal likes and dislikes. And indeed, making this item will mean that other people there will want different items, so that adds work for my thing. But I'm that's something that I do, and I do. So we can add stuff, and it'd be like, that would be nice. That'll be an improvement. And not coming from the kind of the thing of like, oh, I'm bad, I'm incompetent. Of course, if someone says something like that, it's like it just confirms all my bad stuff. It's like, no, take a breath and go, like, no, come at it from a point of, hey, I have a lot of skills and things that I can offer, and things I can offer this person, and we can make it better for both of us. I get to cook something different, which is not definitely not bad. So that was an actual kind of a good outcome of this writing down and thinking about it. Because even if I hadn't written that down immediately, it was one of those, oh, I'm in a place where I'm like, really, why am I? And then kind of applying it to this. It's like, well, what's underlying? What is the underlying stuff here that's coming from me, not from this resident? Our residents are really, wonderful, but they're fairly self-focused on themselves, and they're fairly blunt, which, hey, gives opportunities to, like, people who are not going to be polite and kind of skate around stuff, and you only get it passive aggressively. No, you get it directly on, which is like, I really appreciate that about these residents. It can make it challenging in some places, but it also can make it very direct and easy for someone who's a rank who's got his own stuff to work on. It's like, okay, well, no, let's think about this, and like make it a positive interaction for both of us. So that was really good. And I can think about that with a lot of my social anxiety, with like social media. It's like getting negative comments, or being worried that I'm going to get negative feedback from like a comment I leave. It's like I come at it from I'm incompetent, I'm bad, I'm not good enough. It's like, okay, well, if you can replace that and come at it from kind of a place of strength, you still might get negative feedback, but you can maybe easy to parse. Oh, I'm not letting all a person's negativity just go right to my soul. I might take it as like, oh, well, that's actually a valid criticism of something I've said, or I didn't think about it that way. But you can also maybe kind of parse out the stuff where it's like, okay, this person is being, has got their own issues and own drama. It's I'm able to kind of, if you come at it from a place of strength, you can better have that boundary. You can have that boundary, and I'm not great at boundaries, and this is one way of strengthening boundaries, is to remind myself of the positive, have positive cognitions about myself. There doesn't make me immune from criticism. I shouldn't be. I mean, in this case here, yeah, it's like, okay, kind of tired of the food, would like to have something different. It's like, that's a valid criticism. We kind of find things that work, and they just I can't continue to pump those out at work because they work. But can we find other ones? Yes, we definitely can. So yeah, that was a really good part of. It's strange to be saying this is a part of my no ums videos, but it is a definite part of my global report on that. So I wanted to get that in there. For my actual vocal study video this time around, I did Darren McStay's How to Speak to the Camera. I think his English is a little bit better, but was a little bit shoddy on the title. I think it was How to Speak to Camera, which is probably, it's very much titleese versus actual English. But past that, he had some good suggestions. Actually, a part of me using that one was to get a better cover for my camera to hide my mug, which is over here. And so I'm only looking at the camera lens. It was funny, I was tinkering in the last video with working on keyboard commands for the camera. Ooh, the camera, which has got the autofocus, is wavering around. Let me just put that into locked in position, because I hate the autofocus on this camera. Really zips around. It would probably grab onto my hand if I didn't put the autofocus on. But it gave me the opportunity to make a better cover for my camera, so I cannot see myself, and it forces me a lot more to look into the lens and like I'm talking to a person, because through that lens I am actually talking to other people. Darren McStay was very much about the energy of talking. You're talking to one person. Your focus is on that one person. Your eyes and your mouth, you're sending those beams right into that lens. But remember, it's a conversational kind of tone. This isn't the energy that you would bring to an audience where you're talking to a whole auditorium full. It's like, no, you're having a conversation face to face with one person, and getting the energy right for there. He also brought up the interesting concept. Interesting because he's been a lot about kind of articulation, how to have better articulation, how to, a lot of the vocal exercises I've gotten from him, tongue twisters. It's all very much about making yourself very clear, which he made the point of in a one-to-one conversation when you're talking to someone, you will not be talking in this sort of way, because if you talk in this sort of way, it will come across as you are talking down to the person you are talking to right now. No, the energy is you're having a conversation with another person. That your tone, your method of delivery is much more conversational. I think the thing is, for me, I'm not over worried that I'm going to suddenly become hyper articulate, hyper enunciation in my I'm going to hyper enunciate every word I say. Don't think there's much worry about that. I think if I reach for that, I will probably fall short, but hopefully fall short into natural but clear speech, which is what I'm going for. So that was it's a good little reminder on the main method of what I'm looking for how to speak. I was also thinking that at work, I'm still wearing a mask. I'm the only person who's wearing a mask in my workplace, but it's also an area where I need to definitely enunciate, and I need to enunciate. There's an ant running up a wall behind me, in front of me. I need to project and I do need to enunciate so people can hear me through the mask. I'm the only one left, so I have to definitely do that. I mean, you had to do that when everyone else had a mask as well, but that's another area where I guess I'm having a little bit of vocal training. Vocal training is useful. Can't mumble in a mask and be heard at all. So I think, and the last thing that I thought about as I'm looking at a lot of all my notes from various vocal study videos is the idea that I should probably take all these pieces of paper and instead of actually number one, make my notes on in my Google Documents form, because at the moment I just use the second phone and I can look at my Google Documents. This has got my show notes for No Ums video number 22. Is to put my notes on directly onto Google Documents, and A, I can type them out quicker, but B, they're just there and I can find them again, because as it is, I just have pieces of paper all over the place. So going forward and perhaps going back and trying to find key ones, I'm going to be putting all of my study notes for vocal study videos. My last anxiety one, it was so much writing that I did it right into Google Documents, but do it that way so I have it around and I don't lose it, because all separate, like, loose pieces of paper is good for having something to refer to, but it's not great for keeping it and being able to refer back to it. And what I'm finding is this is actually just having it on Google Documents and then being able to reference it on this little phone here. That's as good as that. And I can strive towards a paperless society. At one point, that was the whole promise of computers, that it was going to eliminate paper, which we've yet to see. But maybe slowly, as the dinosaurs die out, that will happen. I don't know. Then there'll just be more fetishization of the paper that's left. All right. That's been a pretty long No Ums video, I guess. I've been Jay, and let's pause myself or stop more videos later. Or I'm over here.